I can hear you chatting in the background. That's a record for the first time. It wasn't me or the ukulele on first. It was Ralph whispering, "Is that my coffee?" We're live.
Shh, we're recording right now.
We're recording. This is a very, very, very professional setup right now. I can't dump it. All right. We're live.
We're live. Hi, everybody.
How's it going? Episode 20. 20.
Really?
20.
Wow.
Let me check real quick.
Yeah, make sure.
Make sure.
Actually, it's probably 17. Are we counting right
It's
now?
19. Oh,
Really?
well, not that good.
Wah. This intro sucks.
Not that cool.
It's number 2 with Ralph Russo over here. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
We do have
Ladies
Ralph
and
Russo.
gentlemen, with back by popular demand, Ralph Russo.
Hashtag Ralph in Florida.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
We have a really, really, really good show for you today. It's a full crowd. We have me, Megan, Ralph, and then we're going to have Susan here shortly, and we're going to be talking about some really interesting. We're going to go deep into this topic.
Yeah, we're getting heavy today.
Getting heavy, but it's not like it could be sad. I don't think it's sad heavy. It's just
No, I think it's important to talk about.
It's deep. But we have a really good show for you today. Thank you guys for joining us here in this wonderful December. Everybody, 10.
Nice.
December 10. Yeah.
We're really prepared.
And we have Ralph in here. Ralph is now a Florida, not native, but Florida resident.
Yes.
So the last time you were here, you were thinking about moving. You were planning on it, and now you're here.
It was basically a sure thing, but I never thought I'd get to this day.
It was kind of a sure thing.
Yeah, exactly.
100% maybe a sure thing.
I got the car. I got the license.
Well, I told him
You know
I
what mean?
didn't
We're good.
necessarily ever think it was going to happen until I had to show up and help him move some furniture.
You helped him move?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Oh,
He's
man.
a really good friend and boss.
Oh, he was the best. I kind of set him up, though.
There was a little bit of a glitch. What did you guys say? I was a really good one.
I didn't hear Megan.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear Megan when she said that.
No, so Ralph.
I don't remember.
Ralph did the whole
I'm
thing
drunk
of-
already.
He said, can you just come over and help? No, I helped twice, right? Was there 2 days?
You were the best. You were the best.
Thank you. No, but this is funny because the first day we helped move a bunch of stuff out of there, and then
Right.
then Ralph literally.
Ralph, put your phone on silent.
Ralph literally.
I'm not chewing gum today either.
Good. Well, Ralph, he had like a bunch. We got a bunch of stuff out, and there were 2 couches left. Okay, or maybe there was like a little bit left. And so the next day he calls me. He's like, "Hey, I just need a little help." He's like, "I got 2 couches. Can you just help me move?" And I'm thinking, 2 couches a cake. He's only on the 2nd floor. It's not that big of a deal. 2 couches. So I get there and I look in the Penske rental truck, and there's like 4 or 5 couches in there now.
I set him up completely.
Oh my! And he even said that. He was like, "I know, I told you to, but there's more than that."
And one was a sleeper sofa, which
Yeah,
was
How
ridiculous.
many couches do you have?
He's got a bus
plenty.
stop inside of his apartment.
Designing a frat house?
Well, here's the thing. is
Yes.
So he wanted to get. I hate sleeper sofas. If anybody wants to move somebody, ask if they have sleeper sofas because it's the absolute worst. Do not move sleeper
I
sofas.
thought it was not going to be
The
that
worst
bad.
thing ever.
Jake warned me.
Worst
I
thing
denied
ever.
it, and
so-
he was completely right.
But so we get there, and so we put in the couch. I'm like, this looks good. I was like, but Ralph, you have another couch. Where the hell are you going to put this? I was like, everything looks good. He wanted to put it. He wanted to put it in a guest bedroom, a sleeper sofa.
Okay.
That's what I said. And so we get in there, and we barely get it through like the front door. I'm like, yes, we're in. And so we look of like we have to like get it around this corner, and it's not happening. Like we tried, Ralph. We hit the side of the.
It's going to
wall.
take me 2 years to repair that wall.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. It's not happening.
We tried and I asked you, I was like, because you were like, oh, just leave it right here, because it was like literally wedged there, and I was like, well, 1, I can't get out, but 2, if
So it's your couch
if we
now.
were just to keep it there, what are you gonna do? And he was like, I'm just gonna like muscle it through. I was like, there's no way that's happening. So
I thought about taking it apart and kind of bringing it, and then I realized, you know what? It's over. I'm done with this move.
So Ralph has. So it's funny. You walk in, and it's a really nice apartment. Ralph's got a nice view of the Intracoastal Waterway. It's beautiful. So he's got a really nice setup. And there's just like this random sleeper
Rogue
sofa.
couch.
It's rogue. It's on its own.
It's very comfortable, I shall say. You got
It
a
is
good
very
deal
comfortable.
on it too.
Yes.
So, but it's. But I told him, I was like, I'm not moving this out of here.
I am living in that apartment for years.
But it's
I'm
funny
not
because
going anywhere.
his apartment, you open the front door and you're outside, and then you're like kind of like on a balcony. We literally there was just to get in, because there's not a lot of room. There's maybe like 4 or 5 feet walkway. There was literally a couch sitting on top of the railing that was like going. It was just, it was crazy. If that railing would have collapsed, it would have been bad.
I try to tell myself that it would be better off if I moved myself, and now I know why movers get paid, because the amount of stuff I damaged, including the couches, is beyond belief. So yeah.
Yeah, I was really excited to be done.
You're telling me.
We should back up for a minute, and you should explain to everybody that you just moved down to Florida from New York, where you were born and raised. So you're basically not just experiencing the amazing weather that we have, but also the fact that your money goes a lot farther down here.
Yeah. So I was basically living in 450 square feet, and I got 3 times that here for basically the same price.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so you weren't living in Manhattan, although you did previously live in Manhattan.
I lived in Manhattan for 6 years, and I was lived in Queens prior to moving down here.
The King of Queens here, Ralph.
King of Queens.
And I went up there a couple times. I never saw your apartment. I saw it from the outside. I don't think you ever wanted to take me up there.
You never wanted to come visit me.
Yeah, I believe it's probably Jake not wanting to go inside.
No, he did not want to come visit me.
I don't think I ever saw your other one too in Manhattan.
I've had plenty of apartments in Manhattan.
Well,
people in New York move all the time like it's no big deal.
Oh my god!
I think it is the weirdest.
How do you move
thing.
all that stuff? Like,
well, you don't
if you had
have
couches and stuff.
They don't. They go mobile. They just don't take their stuff.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have a lot of stuff. You don't have a lot of space to own a lot of stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends, and my sister also that lives in New York, and I've never seen so much moving constantly over and over again because they don't have all the furniture and stuff that we.
Well,
would have
I'll tell you why.
Well, you had a couch, didn't you?
Yeah, he has a few from what I'm hearing.
I didn't own the couch. You know what I mean? But one of the main reasons is in order to live in Manhattan, you have to have roommates, and you never know when the roommates are gonna either dissolve or you're gonna decide when you're gonna live by yourself or you need another roommate. So that's generally the reason why you move back and forth.
Do you think you'll ever move back there?
Absolutely not.
Do you think you'll ever move back, let's say, to Long Island?
No.
Wow. Do you think you'll ever move north again?
No.
Sounds like he's not leaving.
You know what? I think I'm part of the problem. I'm importing the New Yorkers from down.
Well, it's funny, Megan. You just mentioned that I moved down from New York, and I'd like to say that I was the first one, but that is far from the truth.
Yeah, my entire paternal side of my family would tell you otherwise.
And I think everybody maybe in your apartment might be from New York, too.
Most people are. I mean, especially down here in Palm Beach and stuff. I mean, I grew up, my dad and his whole family, they're all down here now. My dad's from Long Island.
Yep.
So...
You were born here, though, right?
I was born and
Your
raised
dad
here.
is from
You're
Long
Florida
Island.
native.
I'm a Florida native, unlike you
Flow
guys.
grown.
I am flow grown. Florida's finest.
Oh,
I like
man.
To say.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stickers that are around. Have you seen them? They say flow grown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. I'm not from here, but I'd like to say I've been planting my roots. My daughter's from here.
Yeah.
She's from here, which is really cool. So.
Maybe she'll grow up to be just like me then.
Here's
to hoping.
Oh, that's too funny. So the past actually, we're going to be like old people here for a second. The past week has just been terrible for weather, right?
It really has been.
Awful.
And no, it's actually, for being sunny South Florida, it's actually rained every day for the past week.
So I read a statistic the other day. It was based for Miami-Dade County, and it said that by December 5th of this year, it was already the 3rd wettest December on record in recorded history.
Yeah.
And that was only by December 5th.
I think, by December, I was looking at this, not that statistic, but like around the 5th or 6th, we'd already had like 4 inches of rain, which is insane.
And it's funny because
I was ready to pack up and leave.
Like I was saying last week on the podcast, I was in a wedding this weekend, and my girlfriend was married this weekend, and the weather was so terrible that everything had to be moved inside. Of course, it was an outdoor wedding, and she kept saying to me, she's like, "We planned it in December so that it wouldn't rain. It's the most expensive month of the year to get married in Florida," and it was horrible weather. I mean, you would have thought it was nicer in August this year, which is hurricane season.
I mean, it's crazy. It was just like literally just rained everything. And I get, you hear the thing about seasonal affective disorder. I think that's it.
Yeah, SADS.
And it's, I 100% like understand it because even towards like yesterday, like the sun did not come out until like maybe the afternoon, evening time was the first time in 7 days. I was thinking, this is kind of bumming me out,
So everybody right now that's listening to this that has to shovel their driveways and is freezing is listening thinking, God,
I don't know,
assholes.
because growing up in Virginia, I mean, it was cold, and I hated it like from December through March because it was just cold. So it's like, maybe like 40s and 50s raining and overcast and stuff like that. But when it snowed, I always, enjoyed that. Like it was always like something different. Like I liked snow. Now, for somebody like you who sees a lot of snow, more so than I did in Virginia.
Shoveled a lot of
snow.
snow.
Just a pain? Is it just a pain in the ass after 30
Oh
some
yeah,
years?
I mean, people like seeing it. It's good for the first day, but it really, even in Manhattan,
What about,
it is a
what about
complete
kids
nuisance.
and snow up there? I mean, because obviously, when it happened in Virginia, we always got like
Kids
a snowstorm once every 2
aren't
years.
scraping their windshields of ice. Kids aren't, trying to get out of the driveway in the snow. So, they could like it all they want until they grow up and they realize that it's a nuisance and it stinks going to work in the mornings.
Oh, I always think about that.
Have
how
you seen-
hard
you've
it would
seen
be.
snow? Yeah, yeah.
I've only seen snow twice ever.
In Alaska?
No, I saw
You
that.
didn't see that?
No, it wasn't really snowing in Alaska. It was summertime.
my
I saw it
yeah.
one time when I went to Colorado in April. It was still snowing, and I saw it in the summertime years ago when I was in
Oh,
Switzerland.
so you've never played in it?
No, and so it's
Do you
funny.
never skied or
No,
snowboarded?
nothing. But what's funny is this January I'm going to Telluride for one of my best friends, his 30th birthday.
You travel too much.
I like to
You
think so.
travel too much. We have to bring this down.
That's because I'm a freelancer. Ladies and gentlemen, quit your full-time salary job.
Oh my god! Don't you have anything better to do?
So I'm
than just
freaking out
travel?
because I'm going to Telluride in January, and it's going to be freezing, and it's a ski trip, and
And you've never skied before?
I've never skied. So my best friend, who's actually going to be meeting us out there as well, she was a ski instructor. She lives in Denver now, but she was a ski instructor in Breckenridge. So she brought, when she was here for this wedding, all this ski stuff for me to borrow because I looked online. Okay, I need to buy the jacket and the pants and all of that because
not
I'm going to
cheap.
take. No, it's not cheap
cheap.
at all. It's hundreds of dollars.
Yes.
I knew this is going to be an expensive trip going into it because I have to take ski school. I want to learn. I want to try. So I'm looking online, and it's $600 for the jacket and the long underwear. I mean, it is so expensive. So thankfully I have people that I can borrow a lot of it from, but I own nothing at all. I had to buy snow
So you were
boots
completely shocked.
Completely shocked and totally freaked out. I don't even want to go anymore.
I went to school in upstate New York. I will say that
my God.
if you love the winter and you love winter sports, then all for it. You know what I mean? I don't have an SUV. A lot of my buddies upstate New York, they have SUVs.
Mm-hmm.
They get through the winters fine. If you love winter sports, then winter's for you and snow's for you. But I couldn't do it anymore. People that do skiing, they don't do it one time around. They generally do it.
Well, yeah, it's
a
an
lot.
investment.
Yeah.
You're $1,000 out. You're like,
Yes.
shit, I got to go skiing now.
I love skiing, but if I could then just escape the mountain and the snow and the cold weather, like the next day, I would do it.
It's and it takes a lot of it out of you too. It's like a really big.
Yeah, I hear it's gonna be a lot.
Active type of thing.
So I've been researching and practicing at the gym, exercises to
Nothing-
learn how to
nothing's
ski.
gonna help you. Nothing's
I'm
gonna-
trying
as
my
long as,
best.
I would say maybe, obviously, because I don't have to preach to you because you spend about 3 hours in the gym. But as somebody who did it and who's pretty active, I would say obviously your strength training is important too, but also your endurance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Going for but maybe just go for a run.
Oh, God.
But really, because you're just gonna it's you're just gonna get beat up.
Mm-hmm.
So your strength helps with that. But then also if you want to last a little bit longer, you're just some endurance training too. But but you're spending 3 hours at a gym, so that's endurance anyway. So
I'm just looking forward to the après ski part.
the what?
The après ski part
Wait,
after where everybody
opera?
APRES, après ski.
What is?
That's after skiing when everybody goes to the bars and stuff right at the bottom of the mountain.
This is what you see on
Yeah.
all those movies.
Fancy movies.
Fancy
And
movies.
it's Colorado, so marijuana's legal there. So I'm really stoked for this trip, basically for every reason other than the point of the trip.
You could just go there and get high and be like, I'm not going down.
I'm
that mountain.
already flying, dude.
I'm not doing it.
already
I'm
flying.
not doing it. I'm too scared. Oh man. So everybody always likes.
I wish you invested all your money into skis and then just stayed at the bottom of the mountain.
Just too stoned to ski.
I don't want to do it. This actually is so funny. This reminds me of a story. It's always everybody always says, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but everybody's like they love my marijuana stories because I'm a terrible
Yeah,
weed
you're
smoker.
the worst weed smoker
And
ever.
so this reminds me, it was in high school, and speaking of snow, we had a snow day in Virginia, and one of my best friends, I'm not going to name his name, I'm not going to put him out there, but one of my best friends who lived, really close to me, we decided that he was like, hey, he's like, let's go, play in the snow and stuff like that. And he was like, I have this this joint that we could smoke. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now keep in mind, this is at 4:30, and during Virginia time and snow time, we were talking about this yesterday. It gets really dark.
Yeah.
It just gets really dark early, 4:30, 5 o'clock or whatever. So we didn't have any no school. And my parents were like just getting home from work, so I go over there and play. So we're hanging out, just doing stupid stuff, and then we go in the barn, and we decide that he's like, all right, let's light up a smoke. So we smoke. And literally, like, the paranoia hits in immediately. So we're sitting there, and he's just kind of just like, we're just like relaxing, like all like in like our snow gear and stuff like that. And what felt probably like for me, like for 3 hours that we were in there, was literally maybe like 5 minutes. And so finally, here I am just high. I'm like, I gotta go. I have to get home right now. I gotta go. He's like, hey man, we're just hanging out right now. I was like, I gotta go. So like I ran out of the shit. Like, I'm running through the snow, and I get home. Now keep in mind, now it's like 5 o'clock.
So it's pitch black.
So my parents are home, and like they're getting ready for dinner and stuff like that. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just gotta go to my room real quick. So I go to the room, and I take like all my cologne, and I spray it everywhere. Like I literally spray it in my mouth. I spray it everywhere I can. I turn the fan on and everything, and I lay down. And my parents can be like, hey, what's going on? What? I was like, I just really don't feel good. I'm just gonna go to sleep right now. So I literally laid there for like 4 hours until I fell asleep.
Oh my god!
So I just didn't want my parents to know that I was high. Terrible.
They should police officers should just take you around to elementary schools for the DARE project.
We're gonna watch him. He's actually gonna smoke weed and watch how
and
crazy
you're gonna
he
show
gets.
how not fun it is.
I'm the poster boy for like how not fun it is. It's terrible. I'm just a terrible weed smoker. Maybe someday I'll share like my 1 or 2 good stories I have with it, but I have to do some soul searching for those. So. Good coffee, by the way, huh?
Yeah.
That's that Lucy's brew.
This is Lucy's Brew. It's a very good coffee. We actually sold over 1,000 bags last week.
That's
Lucy's
awesome.
Brew. Yeah.
And it's still available, right?
Still available.
You can get it at thealternativedaily.com/coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, and Ralph, we gotta redirect that to our new landing page, okay?
Yeah.
By the way, Ralph, after this, you have work to do.
Yeah. Thealternativedaily.com/coffee. Let's redirect that, Ralph. And that's what this episode is brought to you by. Good old Lucy. I have another Lucy story real quick. Just thinking about it was, so yesterday, because it was raining and it was storming and everything yesterday, Lucy kind of panics.
What about the jacket? The thunder coat?
I didn't even use it. I should have used it. So it's raining and storming. She's kind of freaking out. I should have put it on. I've completely forgotten. But she has like this weird thing. If it's raining, she's so scared, but she likes to be outside. And sometimes she'll just kind of go sit in the rain and stuff like that. So we had there was like a construction worker that had to come over to the house or something like that. So we're doing stuff, and all of a sudden we get a call from the neighbors that Lucy's over there. So I have a fence, I have everything that I need. She gets so scared, and we used to live across the street with my sister for a couple months. So she always tries to go back over there when something happens. So we got a call, so we had to go pick her up. But Lucy's fine. Everybody, Lucy's fine. She's doing well.
She's sunning herself right now.
She's sunning herself, sitting in the warm buttermilk sun right now.
She would hate New York.
Yes. Yes.
My sister's visiting right now from New York on a job that she's doing. So she's staying with Colin and I. And the other day we got together. It was the first time I saw her, and she'd come home from the job, and we were sitting out on my balcony, and it was about 5:30 or so. And I go, oh, doesn't it suck? Like, it's so beautiful, but don't you hate that it's getting dark so early? And she goes, I can't believe that it's still light out now. In New York, it's like 3:30 and
I had that
dark.
conversation with Jake. My buddy texted me a picture of the Empire State Building, and I texted him back a picture of Duffy's with it still being light out.
Duffy's. You really sell Florida now.
I got the Duffy's card before I got my license.
You getting all your points? That stuff pays off.
It does. So we're gonna go from Duffy's into a very heavy subject. So obviously there was some major things happening in the past couple of weeks, and one of those was you obviously had the Paris attacks, and then you had the San Bernardino killings. And it always seems like as soon as this stuff comes up, there's always an uproar, as there should be in some way, about how things are handled. How can we stop these things, right? And of course, the one topic that always comes up is the topic of gun control. And it seems to be a very divisive issue. I personally don't think it should be as divisive as it is. But I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about that, because as we were doing this, as we were kind of coming up with this topic, the San Bernardino shootings happened, and Susan Patterson, who's our main content editor, she wrote an excellent article, it was an excellent piece about the 21 takeaways that 21 takeaways from the San Bernardino shootings, and it was a very non-divisive type of article, and it got a lot of views on Facebook, it got a lot of likes. And our audience responded pretty well to it. And the Alternative Daily audience, we actually did a recent presidential poll, kind of like a 2016 presidential poll, asked them who they would vote for, etc. And one of those questions that we actually asked them was, let me pull it up here real quick. It was regarding gun control. Should the government be involved with, the registering of firearms as they are now, right? If you want to get a gun, you actually have to register it with the government. And I just kind of, it's something that's already on the table. And I wanted to know what people thought about that. And it was right down the line, 50-50 split. It was, so there's definitely people who think that, the government should be less involved with firearms. And there's people who, and in terms of our audience, and there's people who 50% who thinks they should be in there. So when I see that, like a lot of people would say, run away, don't talk about gun control, don't talk about that thing, it's too divisive. But as we've been doing some more content, and we try and do it from a very non-biased perspective, we really try to be independent, and also give an alternative viewpoint on it. This is not a Democratic site. This is not a Republican site. If I had to say it's anything, it's independent, and it's let's come up with alternative solutions to problems that we just haven't found an answer to yet. And so right now, I'd actually like to have Susan Patterson, who wrote that awesome article, join us. Susan, are you there?
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Susan.
Susan.
Hey, guys.
Susan has been patiently waiting on hold for us right now, so I appreciate you still being there and not falling asleep.
Yeah, and by the way, you guys have no right to talk about old people topics like weather when I'm way older than all of you.
Can I ask how young you are? I think Susan's 22. Susan is
how young I am. 22. Yeah.
22. So Susan wrote that wonderful article on the San Bernardino shootings, and I want to ask you real quickly, Susan. What was we had talked about what angle and or how we actually wanted to approach it. But as you kind of sat down to write it, because I didn't say come up with these 21 things or anything, you kind of sat down and did your own kind of take on it. And as somebody, and I hope you don't mind me just saying this. I mean, as somebody who's pretty much, I guess you could, I don't want to say pro guns, but you're not anti guns. For somebody to write an article on that, you did a fantastic job from somebody it's written for people that were for gun control and people that were or not against gun control. So I just want to ask you just real quickly in terms of what was your thought process as you were kind of going through that article?
So, I thought, let's make this more about people as opposed to policy. That was the first starting place. Let's not argue the policy, but let's let people look inside themselves to see how they react, right, to tragedies. And, of course, the time of mourning is necessary and sadness, and I explained that, but also caution people not to go in dangerous places with their feelings and their emotions, because even if we look right now, the extremists are dominating the debate about guns, and I really feel like this keeps us from having a grown-up conversation. We can't have it. So instead of letting the emotions overrule, then people needed to look within themselves and see what they could actually learn from these tragedies and how they could live life in a more mindful way. So that was sort of the take. No,
that's absolutely awesome, because a lot of people will say, I saw a lot of people on my Facebook, and a lot of people had said, I don't know what to say, or what do we do now? And from both sides, and I think that, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but there's a lot of good stuff that's happening in this world, right? And this is a very tragic, terrible thing. But I think how you wrote it, which was, yes, you might not know what to say, but here's 21 things that you can do now. And I'll just give you just a few of those, because it was just a really, really good, well-written piece. But as we were talking about, just kind of being more mindful throughout the day and realizing, that life is a gift, and to tell yourself this daily, these are the small little things that you can do, which can just make a difference in your life and other people's. And here's a cool one too, which was, make future plans, lots of them. I'm all about, living in the moment, living in the present, and kind of being, and trying to live your life now. But there is something to be said about saying, hey, I'm going to go meet with my family, next week, and looking forward to that. I think from just kind of a mindful approach, you don't attach to it. And if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, you can't let it ruin your life. But there's nothing wrong with making plans. As Megan was talking about going to Telluride and being a little snow bunny for the first time. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be scared. Overcome your fears, no matter what they are. I think that was absolutely excellent. You know, it's easy to say overcome your fears, but definitely those are things that we need to do. Is, you know, I've done it in my life. Ralph, you know, Megan's done it. I mean, Ralph just moved down here, not really only knowing me and maybe even Megan. You know, there's something fearful about doing that. And it was just a very, very, very good, very well written piece. And I won't give you all 21 of them, but it's just, and the last one I do want to leave though is a few of them actually, which is forgive daily, connect with nature, and help those in need. Which again, these are all things that we could do on a daily basis. And if more and more people did this, we would see less and less of the violent activity that we're seeing there. So thank you. That was an excellent piece, and I appreciate you writing that. So what I wanted to do though was, and we'll kind of, I'm gonna call us all out here, right? So I called out Susan and said she leans more towards having a I'll say pro-gun. I don't know if there's a better topic for it, you know, because Susan's not necessarily, like, say, pro-gun. It's not like she worships a gun, but she's maybe for, I guess we could say, less gun control. And, you know, and Ralph and Megan, how would you guys classify yourselves?
I would classify myself as somebody that is for the Second Amendment, but definitely I believe that the laws that are in place now need some revision.
Okay.
Some examples, like I don't think that there's a problem with somebody wanting to arm themselves. My father has a concealed weapons permit, and he has my entire life, but he doesn't have an assault rifle or an AK-47. So I think that there needs to be a balance between the kind of weapons that we have access to, and maybe a limit on how much you're able to purchase every year. And also, I think that regulations such as, I know this is a big one that's coming out right now, like President Obama just spoke about the fact that if you're on the no-fly list, you can still go out and purchase a gun.
Right.
I'm not saying that, you know, some people are accidentally put on that, or it's wrongful, or it might not have anything to do with, you know, a mental health issue or whatnot. But I think that there needs to be some revisions into how we actually give people these guns and who we're giving them to.
Right. And then Mr. Ralph, where do you stand on that?
No, I completely agree. I will say one thing that you said before in regards to the registry. I don't think there is a registry right now, and that's the big debate. So I think we need a registry of a government registry of who owns a gun. At the end of the day, the government has all of our information. I mean,
right.
If you don't like it, it's
I think
not going
that's something
anywhere.
all four of us can agree on. That
Yeah.
as you're texting something, somebody's probably reading that.
Right, exactly. I mean, I watched a documentary on Snowden and the lead up to Snowden and giving away those documents. At the end of the day, Obama didn't really do much to get rid of the policy of the NSA.
Right.
So government knows what we're doing. We already have restrictions on, you know, when we get a car and we got to register the car and all that jazz. Why not do it with a gun? I don't understand why we can't. But like Megan
let's
said,
be clear, the two of you are not saying rip guns out of people's hands.
No.
Right?
No.
Okay. And
I will premise that though. I understand the Second Amendment. I respect the Second Amendment. The foundation of the Second Amendment is there for a reason. But let's not pretend that a gun registry is not going to. Let's not pretend that it's going to ruin everything if the government has a list of people who have guns. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Ralph, you're way more comfortable you're way more comfortable today than you were your first time. Look at you. I like it.
It's just the Florida weather.
So Susan, I gave them kind of each a couple minutes to kind of, you know, clarify their stance. Did you want to clarify anything on yours before we kind of get started in this discussion?
No, I mean, I kind of agree, too. You know, I want sane, law-abiding citizens to be able to defend themselves, you know, in whatever means necessary. So if that includes a martial arts class or a firearm. But at the same time, I want our society, you know, as a whole to be able to defend itself from insane or, like, violent criminals.
Right.
And actually, I look at the elected officials to enact laws to keep the crazies from getting their hands on guns. So yeah, I think we're all sort of saying the same, you know, we're speaking the same language here at least.
Now, I saw this. I keep my head on a swivel when it comes to news and everything. And recently, there was a Fox News host. I forget the lady's name. As the start of her program, urged everyone that they needed to protect themselves, go out and arm themselves, protect your family at all costs. You know, it's a different world now, etc. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not saying it, you know, verbatim. You know, what about, you know, is that the right way? Is that the right way? And this goes into and I'll go into this. It's a conversation that Susan and I had, which was, one, if you don't want to own a gun, should you own a gun?
Well, I'll also say this, though, too, and we spoke about this last night. And statistically, right now, this year is one of the global peaceful times that have happened within the last century. So for someone on Fox News to be saying that, statistically, she's wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah, there are dangers out there, but there have been dangers out there for years and years and years. There's always wars going on, civil wars. There's always conflicts. But right now, statistically, is one of the most global peaceful times that's happening. So, you know, I don't appreciate her doing the fear-mongering thing. I think if you feel the need to defend yourselves, do it responsibly.
And excuse me, you know, Megan, from your standpoint, you know, if somebody doesn't want to have a gun, you know, and you have somebody coming at you, not coming at you, but from a TV personality who's saying, you know, you need to protect yourself. You know, what is somebody like you? Are you like, I don't want to say that are you like on the table? Like, would you go out and buy a gun?
No, absolutely not.
So somebody like, when she says that, you know, it's not going to make you say, you know what, I really need to go out and do this.
No, I'm in my opinion, and I don't want to offend anyone out there. Again, my dad has a concealed weapon. I, in some ways, believe that when you have guns or when you have things like that, it almost more invites problems. So I believe that people, if they have a gun and something happens to them and somebody comes up to them, like if a guy tried to, you know, hurt me or something and I didn't have a gun, maybe I wouldn't be able to fight back. But a lot of times people have guns and then they accidentally go off, or they could get it taken away from them and get shot.
So I'm playing devil's advocate here too, though. Let's say somebody does grab you. You're in a dark alley. You don't have a gun on you. And for some magical reason, you could press a button where you could then have a gun to ward them off. Would you do that?
Well, of course. But I mean, of course I would. I mean, if I thought my life was in danger, I would want one. But that doesn't necessarily mean I would feel comfortable, just me personally, with carrying a gun around all the time, or having small children and having a gun in my home. That's just, for me personally, how I feel about it, you know? I don't carry a knife right now or mace or anything like that. Maybe that's considered reckless because I am a smaller size woman, and I wouldn't be able to defend myself, but I just don't believe in. I mean, I could still kick Ralph's ass.
I was about to say, if you whipped out a switchblade right now, I'd be really surprised. Could you imagine?
Right?
She starts playing with her knife at the table.
And now, Susan, we and this is a question that we had. You and I were talking about again, 2 days ago, which was, all right. So you have somebody out there. I think we can all agree that somebody like a TV personality urging people to get guns might not be the best. The best source or your best resource to go get one. Do we agree or disagree with that?
I'm sorry. I was going to say I don't necessarily agree with that.
No, right. That's what I'm saying.
I would say I don't agree either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, Susan, specifically for you, if so Megan's on the fence. Like, Megan's not on the fence. She's not going to get a gun. She's not going to get mace. Maybe mace. I don't know. But I haven't asked Ralph this, but for you, if people are on the fence, I'm not saying you're on the fence, but so somebody is like kind of like, because there is a it's not all anti and for it. There's a big population of people that like they don't know what to do, right? And so what about people that are on the fence and saying, you know what, should I get a gun? Like if somebody breaks in, I'd like to have a gun to shoot them off, or should I be carrying one around? I don't know. This is a different time. What's just, obviously I'm not asking you, Susan, to tell them what to do, but how should somebody be looking at the resources and what should they be looking at to make an educated decision for themselves, whether to arm themselves or whether not to arm themselves?
That's the key, right? The word educated. And again, not acting out of emotion. That would be my first thing. I mean, I think everybody should have a choice whether to be armed, but I know a lot of people who I would never want to see a gun in their hand.
Right.
So I think first is to know yourself. I mean, assess yourself, and who am I and how scared am I of owning a firearm? Because, first of all, if you're scared, it's because of lack of education or a lack of understanding.
Right.
So you're not the best person to own a firearm if you're scared to death of them. Chances are, it's going to be either misused, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to be comfortable with it first off. And I think doing your research in terms of where you live, how scared are you every day to go out on the street? I mean, I live in a tiny little rural town in the mountains of Arizona. My door doesn't even lock.
Right.
I don't lock the door, so for me, and I don't carry a gun, but I know enough people that do, that are around me pretty commonly. It's commonplace here.
Now, Susan, your daughter Sam, does she carry a gun, or she's well rounded on the firearms, right?
We all know how to use a gun and have had safety training and that sort of thing. And for the most part, we have them for if we go hiking or riding the horses out into millions of acres of forest that's here. And so this isn't for.
Yeah, I mean, really, what do you do if you're hiking and a bear comes at you?
Yeah. That's different than walking
so
down
that's
the street.
Why we carry. That's right. And that's why a lot of people here do, right? Like, just for that reason alone.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody that lives in fear in this small little place we're in. Now, I mean, with that being said, you need to do your research. Where do I live? Why do I want one? Do I want one just because a TV personality told me I needed one? I mean, be really smart about it. Turn your TV off. Think about it for a little while. Talk to friends and family that may own guns. And for sure, if you're going to do it, get comfortable with it first. I mean, don't just go out and purchase a gun and say, okay, I have a gun, now I'm safe. That's a false sense of security.
Right.
I mean, just owning a gun doesn't give you any sense of security. You need to know how to use it, and you need to feel safe with it, and know the rules and the regulations, and make sure everybody in your home is aware that you have it, and that they also understand the rules. So I mean, I see that's being most important.
I have it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even like 7 or 8. I got a spear gun, a spearfish, and so I got my first spear gun about like 8 years ago. I remember when I got that thing and looking at it, like I just remember looking at it being terrified.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this thing? And so one of my friends had actually got it, Hobie. He had done it before, and I got mine. So went out with him. And so it's not like you can sit in your yard and just, try and shoot things with it, right? It's just like you got to actually get in the water because it's the way it works. But that's what we did was, right, we went diving, and we did a couple just like stray shots into the sand, making sure there's no like stingrays or not killing any innocent wildlife or whatever. But there's definitely the kind of like that initial, oh my God, what is this thing? And of course I looked it up. There's no real, you could take maybe like a spearfishing class, but there wasn't really a lot available that I knew of back then. But it did a lot of videos, a lot of reading on it and everything like that. And so now I feel extremely comfortable with it. Of course, keeping up with it and the maintenance and everything. So, but this brings up not so much the spearfishing thing, but where you're talking about looking at like your life situation, right? And so I want to kind of lay out a couple, examples to both of you. If you live in a very high crime neighborhood, or something a topic we're going to talk about later, which is there was a shooting in Miami Beach. Let's say you live in a neighborhood. Your life situation has you living in a very, a very crime-ridden neighborhood, and you can't get out right now. You can't sell your house. You're stuck. You're stuck there. You have to live in this house. Do you feel differently about owning a gun at that point? If you know that there's shootings going on every night, if you know that there's murders going on in your city every single night, and people around you have been getting robbed and all these terrible things, do you both feel differently in that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think that for me personally, then maybe I have a hard time imagining owning a gun right now because I don't live in an area like that. I don't feel the need to, every time I leave my house, defend myself or defend my property or my family members. So I think that maybe, I would be willing to concede to the idea that other people in worse off situations or situations completely different from mine, maybe I can understand why they would want access to a firearm. For me personally, though, I have a bigger issue with the kinds of firearms that are out there and all of the different kinds that are available. Sure. Again, somebody owning a handgun, so a woman my age can walk down safely down the street and keep a handgun in her purse, is very different than the person that feels they need to defend their house with 3 assault rifles and an AK-47 and an Uzi and all this crazy shit. It's like, what is the need for all of that? Thousands of rounds of ammunition. To me, I think there's a big dichotomy between the kinds of people that are going out and just arming themselves like we're preparing for another war on our home front, and the people that maybe do need something for protection.
Sure. So Ralph, for you.
I like to stay open-minded. So if you feel the need to get a gun, I would also say feel the need to also develop a good core community, social community, security amongst your peers.
That's a good idea.
You know what I mean? Guns don't always have to be the number one answer. You could also do something that develops a sense of security within the community that does not involve guns.
Right now, we're just specifically talking about break-in. So there's some things, if you can, like Susan and I were talking about this too. Whether it's getting better windows, whether getting, impact resistant windows, alarm systems, dogs, right? There's definitely things you can do to deter people. And right now, this specific topic, just to kind of, make sure we're all clear, is we're just talking about just break-ins because we're talking about the neighborhood.
No, absolutely. But if you feel the need to get a gun, also feel the need to do other things that doesn't involve guns to create that sense of security.
So let me ask you guys this. So as I don't know if Megan still has a turkey. I don't know. A turkey in the oven. But eventually,
I don't have a turkey in the oven
I think maybe you might have kids, right?
Eventually.
And Ralph, I think Ralph comes from a big family. Ralph wants like 80 kids.
No, no, I don't.
I'm speaking for you and your future wife. You want 80 kids. So with kids at school, so there was obviously a very, very tragic thing that happened in Newtown, Connecticut, right?
2011, yeah.
And so you look at that situation, right? Do you feel as a parent, and I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but as a parent, do you feel better that if there were a policeman on campus, at all times, or let's say the headmaster or the head security guard or somebody is carrying a firearm?
Well, you even mentioned the debate whether the teachers should be carrying firearms, and I responded with absolutely not. But
why do you say no?
If kids don't need to be around teachers that have a concealed weapon, but to create that sense of security, if you want to have or hire policemen or security guards that have weapons, then go for it. That patrol the school and the campus. I wouldn't necessarily say putting guns in every single teacher's hand is going to deter the problem. A security guard or 5 cops around campus or the school would have just as much of effect without having little Miss Nancy, teacher having to carry a gun around her waist.
Jumping in for a moment, though, there are police officers and security at every single college university in the country, and there are shootings that happen at all of them. So what would be the alternative? Things happen where there are armed guards.
But elementary
at Florida,
schools.
yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of schools. I mean, it can happen anywhere. I think the problem is it's about educating the masses. And again, I know that this is something that the GOP pushes a lot and the Republican Party pushes a lot, like education and more help with mental health issues. And like, for example, there was a shooting a year and a half ago at Florida State University where I went to school at a library. There are security guards at the library, and somebody still was able to get through all that and shoot people in the library during finals week. And it happens in Oregon, that horrible shooting in that creative writing class where 10 kids were killed, 10 students. I mean, there are police officers and security. So unless we're going to have an armed guard sitting in front of every single classroom from grades preschool through college, I don't even think that matters.
I'll play devil's advocate again. So if you look at a college campus, it's more open, right? So anybody can necessarily wander onto a college because it's so big, right? And so it's the nature of it is it makes it that much harder for a college campus. But if you're thinking about like a little school like that, right, where it's very confined. And there's ways to kind of, if you're not on one hall, you can be on the other hall in literally 10 seconds. Do you think that there should be an armed person, at least let's say preschools or elementary schools?
But like you said, like I'll say this too. I mean, if you arm every single teacher, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stop the problem either. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I get that. I mean, and also what's to keep the teacher from going nuts and just saying screw it, right? I 100% get that. So are you and Susan, we haven't brought
Little
you in.
Joey's really annoying me right now.
Yeah. I've definitely wanted to.
It's terrible, Ralph. So Susan, what's your take on it from a school standpoint of having somebody, armed at a school system?
I mean, I just go back to the same thing I said earlier. It's a bad decision to put guns in the hands of non-trained people.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
That we have to just rest on that. And so we have to use that as a qualifier when we're talking about this. But I'm fine with a teacher or several people in a school, depending on the size of the school and the accessibility of classrooms, et cetera, carrying a gun.
But do you make it mandatory? What if
No.
Yeah,
I think there should be a choice. But I mean, I also think that if, again, these people are trained, they know how to use it. It's a tool, right? And like any other tool in the hands of the wrong people, it becomes very, very bad. But in in the hands of the right people, it could be something that could be the difference between a terrible tragedy happening and not.
I think that when something terrible happens, like San Bernardino or Newtown or anything like that, we sometimes forget that is just one small incident, while there are millions and millions of law-abiding citizens that do just collect guns and do just own them for their own personal use. And so it's difficult because what the debate is, it's like you have to, or people want there to be a very hard line. Either we have to get rid of all guns, or everybody can just have whatever they want. And I think that what we're seeing, which is why it is such a difficult topic and something so controversial in government, is we can't. I don't think we're ever going to be able to draw a hard line. Nobody's ever going to be happy with it because, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that just want to go out. One of my best friends, he's very, very conservative. His brother likes to collect guns. He does a lot of hunting. He has a huge, crazy safe in his home that he shares with his wife, and keeps everything locked up. And he doesn't like the idea of not being able to go out and buy what he wants and use what he wants. And sure, he can joke and say, well, I want to arm myself and defend myself. I mean, nobody's coming at him where he's going to need an assault rifle and a hunting rifle and all this stuff. But for him, he feels like he should be able to decide what he wants to do with it. And so I think the problem is there are so many good people out there that should be able to have guns and should be able to keep them and do what they want with them. The problem is we forget that these incidents that happen, it really is a small percentage of people that do these things. It's like we should, and that's where sometimes I tend to go more on the conservative side, because there's a lot of people that get in car accidents, but we still drive cars.
I was thinking about the exact same thing.
A lot of people that drive drunk, but alcohol isn't illegal at places. It's illegal to drink and drive.
Right.
I was thinking about the exact same thing when I was coming back from my run, which was I was looking at the cars go by, which is somebody gets killed every day in a car.
Tons of people do.
Especially the drunk driving. It's illegal. You cannot drive drunk, but people still do. So let's just say, bam, all right, all guns are outlawed. Everybody has to give them back. By the way, I don't think that could ever happen. But let's just say everybody has, nobody can have them. Where do they go, right? They don't disappear into oblivion. People are still going to find ways. Heroin is still illegal, right? But people still find ways to get it, correct?
Right.
And so, I think I was talking to somebody the other day who believed that, nobody, like, I can't get one, you can't get one, that type of deal. Is that realistic? Is it in the United States? Let's just talk about I'm not talking about Japan, I'm not talking about China, I'm not talking about Australia. Given our current constitution with the Second Amendment, is it realistic to think that there's going to be extremely strict gun control?
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
I
will say this: it's such a popular issue. When the next time something like this happens again, it's going to be all over the media because they know the viewers are going to tune in. Right. So every single time this happens, until the media is going to focus on it. It's a hot topic right now. So just because it's on CNN doesn't necessarily mean there's a growing increase of gun violence going on in the country. I will also say this. Going to school in upstate New York, there are a lot of people that love their guns, obviously, like Megan said. I'm willing to let anyone buy any gun they want as long as there's a registry. The issue of the government is going to come after our guns is so out of control and crazy to me. Sorry, like I'll let you get whatever you want. Just let the government dictate if you're crazy, you're not going to get a gun. Because there's so many law-abiding.
Is that your policy?
Yeah, 100%. I'd actually
Russo
write that
2016.
in the law. That's the name of the law right there. Russo 2016. If you're crazy, don't get a gun.
And here's the thing. And the reason why I don't necessarily know if I like or dislike that idea.
Which means he doesn't.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I like the process of that idea, which is that you are trying to find middle ground. Yes. You're not drawing a hard line. And the left draws a hard line, the right draws a hard line, and guess what happens? We're where we're at now. So if there needs to be meeting in the middle. There needs to be, say, you know what? Okay, we're never going to agree on both of our hard lines, but you want your guns, go get them. but here's where you have to give a little, and here's where I have to give a little.
100%.
In a perfect world, but that's not what government is. That's why
Not our government.
Political parties are hard
Not our
lines.
government.
Right. Political parties are hard lines. That's why, when you go to vote, you're like, well, maybe I don't agree with everything, but they seem better than the other guy, and you have to take a hard line. I just don't see that happening.
I think that can be solved easier than saying get rid of the guns type of deal. I think because there's definitely a voice, as we're seeing now, as we're seeing with Donald Trump. We'll talk about his stuff in a bit, but there's definitely a voice of people who just don't go with the regular right and with the regular left. Now, I think that there's a lot of, and I'm not saying the people that follow him are in the center, et cetera, but it's like a different voice. I think there's a lot of people, if you had to label them, which is terrible, is more like center, is more central and saying, you know what, we don't agree with the far right lines or the far left lines. Like here's what's realistic, and let's do that. And so I have a note here and a question, which is extremely divisive rhetoric will not solve this problem or others. There will always be half of the country who does not agree with you. So when these politicians are out there, they're saying, this is what we need to do. We need to bring it back to conservative values. Well, I'm sorry, because there's 50%, there's half of the other country that's saying, no, I can't. So why can't that person who's saying everyone needs to come back to conservative values open it up a bit? Is it a problem with the primary season? Why don't these politicians keep that in mind while running for president?
Because they have to draw a hard line, because that's how the parties are.
Why do they have to draw a hard line?
Because the people that are in the middle, how many people are running for office that you see, or even currently people that are potentially going to be on the ticket, that are really going in the middle?
You lose that way.
You lose that way.
You don't get
But why do they do that? And this is the nature
cater
of it.
to the base.
Is to cater to the base for the primaries.
For the primaries, and then for the general election, they get back towards the middle.
Now, how do we get rid of that?
You don't.
Okay. You guys are just. This is very terrible. You're ruining my optimistic.
I love politics, and at the end of the day, it's the only way to proceed. There is a political game out there that everyone has to play. Who are running for office.
What if that game is leading us to where we are now? And
the only way it changes is the general public who have the power of voting. I don't want to say educates themselves, absolutely not, but becomes aware of it. It's in the voters' hands to change the way the game works.
Well, but no, not necessarily, because if you look at it in some states, I think Florida's like it or whatever. If you're a registered Republican, you are the only one that can vote in the Republican primary, right?
Yeah.
In some states, you can actually vote in whatever primary you want.
Right.
But where I'm getting at is it's not so much politics. It's not so much the primaries. The problem is actually in a two-party system, where the two parties hold the majority.
Correct, but what's the good alternative?
Well, no, there's a good, and I don't want to say it's easy to say it's independent, but there's still, I have a lot of conservative friends, I have a lot of liberal friends, right? And there's your fringe conservative people who are just crazy, right? They're just way out there. And you have people more central where you can have a conversation like this. And the same thing on the left side. You have people that are just so crazy they want the government involved in everything. You can't say this, You can't say that. You're going to piss people off. But then you have people who can have conversations like this. I think, this is just me being the optimist too, I think that, as a human race, we're evolving, and there's more of the people that are in more of the center. And if there can be a voice of the center and not a voice of the middle class, this is exactly what's wrong, is they all say, I'm the voice of the middle class, I'm the voice of the lower class, I'm the voice of this. No, we need to look at it differently. Who's the voice of like the center? Who is just like the normal voice? And there needs to be a way that can come up and flower. And you're shaking your head like that's not going to happen.
I'm thinking like that would be me. Okay, I'm ready, guys. I'll do this.
You could be our person. Susan, we talked about this a lot in terms of the polarization of having those two parties. What from your standpoint, what can you see be done? That was for Susan.
Okay, go on, Susan. Sorry. I'm staring at the ceiling thinking.
Politics is a...
There's a lot of money in politics.
Politics is a place I don't like to go. I'm like a firm believer in...
I'm putting you on the spot.
Nature. Yeah, you can. I'm a firm believer in human nature not being innately good. That's a huge statement for me to say, but I'm going to say that. So I don't think that, this is really global, but I don't think that any kind of system that operates even similar to the premise that we operate at now. I mean, look at history, and I think if we go back to the way it was originally, there were many good things we can learn from a two-party system. And I mean, Jake, you're saying have a one-party? Is that what you're
No. What I'm saying is
for?
like the two-party, two-party system worked for a couple hundred years, right? It worked, but now I think as a human nature, we've evolved where and I'm not saying I don't want people to construe this into going against the Constitution, but what was written or how it worked 200 or 300 years ago, it's a different time now. It's a different world. Even up until about 20, 30 years ago, there were President Reagan was friends with people across the aisle. They were shaking hands across the aisle. That's how things worked and got done, and were the good old times, right? But now with the polarization of how it is, I think there's no better time for there to be, I hate to say reaching across the aisle because I think just like the both sides are just so bought off by lobbyists and money. But I think that there's going to be an uprising, a movement, and I don't think it's going to happen this election cycle. But I think what's going to happen are people who are actually going to say, you know what, this is just way too crazy. We need to have a good brain trust of like-minded individuals who can say, you're given a little bit by saying, I'm giving you a little on this side, I'm giving you a little on this side. If you just take my, if you take this, this idea, whatever. But there's going to be more of a rising of just logical thinking.
I will say this: you said it's not going to happen in this election, but it's happening. Trump is the Republican nominee, a person without any political experience.
No, you're right.
People
You're right.
Pissed
Right.
and don't want a politician.
Right.
I could come out right now, and I have no problem saying that, I'm not voting for Trump. I have no problem saying that. But yet, I completely agree with people's anger in the Republican Party towards their political nominees. I mean,
right.
I want to see Rubio succeed personally, but Trump people are just angry at politicians.
And he had a very good opportunity to be non-divisive.
Right.
He had a very good opportunity to be non-divisive, and I think that's where he a little bit tripped up a little bit. But
I completely get the whole why people are voting for Trump. I completely get it. I understand it. People are annoyed. That being said, I will say that people also have to understand that when politicians promise certain things, you have to understand whether it's feasible or not feasible.
Right.
That's why also people are annoyed, is because politician XYZ, you said you were going to do this, that, and the other thing. You're not doing it. Well, when they make promises, you have to understand whether it's feasible or not feasible, because some of these promises are just not possible in the political spectrum.
Absolutely.
It's just not possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We even talked about that.
Voter education too, right?
Right.
Voters need to know. I mean, they need to understand who it is they're supporting, and they need to understand the allegiance to the party as well.
There's
so right.
Yes.
Be careful of that.
There's a good quiz that I took. I think it's I forget. It's like whereistand.com or who I stand for. I stand with.com.
Mm-hmm.
I think I stand with.com. And it gives you, it just talks about, just literally gives you issues, and you answer them, and it shows like who is more in line with you, which it's not terrible.
It aligns the politician to what your thoughts are.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I'll take
all right, one last question regarding the guns. Megan, is the you know what? I'm going with Susan on this one. So I'm going with Susan.
It's a really smart question.
Megan, Susan, is the world
Yes.
Is the world, and I won't say world, is the nation a safer place if every single person owned a gun?
No.
Okay. Megan.
I mean,
go ahead, Susan.
No, I say no. That's just no. I was going to expand on it, but
please expand on it. Please, no, go for it.
Humans, I mean, humans bent on killing will always find a way to kill, right?
Absolutely.
This is just wrapping all this up. You make total gun. Nobody has a gun. Look at prohibition. Look at history. That didn't work, did it?
Right.
So, I mean, my final 2 cents, in a utopian world, nobody needs a gun. We don't live there. Right? That's not here. That's not now. And you can't say everybody having a gun is going to make it safer, again, unless everybody knows how to use it and feels, capable using it. So for me, let's look at things like better mental care, prevention, poverty, education, control over illegal immigration, and all the other things that can help improve us as a culture, as opposed to looking at the gun.
I like it, Susan. Thank you. Megan.
Okay.
I agree with that in the sense that if every single person had a gun, can you imagine how many more shooting deaths there would be? How many more disputes there would be where somebody would just feel the need to reach out, pull their gun out and shoot somebody in a car? I mean, if I had a gun, do you know how many people I would probably want to kill when I'm driving on the highway up to be here, up to do this podcast?
Why did you want to say that?
No, but it's true. I mean, I think that I believe, and this
She's
is just
playing
me.
with her switchblade right now as she says that.
I'm like swiping. I believe that just personally, while they are, it's a personal issue, I think that guns invite problems, and if more people have guns, it's just more problems.
We have ultra liberal Megan stance on that. So I guess I think we have a roundabout of different feelings on here. This is good. This is really good. Ralph.
No, definitely not. But I will say this: the interesting thing is how many people would scream defense. Be like, I shot this guy.
Stand your ground.
Yeah,
that's what we do here in Florida.
Stand your ground. I felt threatened. That's such a loose interpretation.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a way to live, right? In terms of, and I go back to that person who said, arm yourselves, arm your family, arm everything you got right now. That's just not a way to live, right?
But if you do it responsibly, I have no problem with it.
100%, right? And so I'll wrap up that conversation. But there was a bigger method to my madness with having this conversation, which was we had people from different political backgrounds on this and giving their opinion, giving their talk. And look, we're not sitting here screaming at each other. I didn't have to mute Ralph. I didn't have to mute Megan. I would have loved to just do this, have Megan talk and say something, Megan.
So anyways.
And just bring her down and just go just like that. That'd been great, but we didn't have to do that. So the whole point is this is the way that I do think things can get done. I do disagree with Susan and Kate.
Kate's a real bitch.
We have a Kate who works for us. And I love her. But it's a way to have a conversation where we can evolve humanity forward in a very, very positive way. And I think that if more politicians, if more people too, just when whatever you're getting from MSNBC or Fox News or Huffington Post, you know what? You just need to have a very respectful conversation and need to be open to other ideas. But, I'm not saying back off of your principles, but you just need to have responsible, respectful, fair conversations. And that's how things are going to happen. And that's exactly what we did here. So congratulations to all of you.
We're all adults. Yay.
Yeah.
We're all adults. Yes. Susan, I have one more topic that we're going to do. And I want to keep you on here for this one too. Okay. Megan, I know that you wanted to talk about one, but we might have to save it to next week.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
oh no.
Yes, we know where I'm going with this.
Susan, I'm sorry.
So
I have
Ralph,
to say that right
so
now.
Ralph just moved. Let me just kind of go for a segue song. Yeah, we're gonna bring it down. We went hard for.
We're gonna
it.
lighten the mood.
Okay, so I went out to dinner with Ralph, one of my favorite restaurants. I took Ralph to, and where we were having fresh fish. And Ralph just moved down here, and Ralph was explaining to me that he's like, "Yeah, I know you're gonna get mad at me." But he's like,
Susan, I'm sorry.
I went to Walmart to get some fish, and I was like,
No. I said I went to Walmart to pick up some things for the apartment, and I was like, oh wow, Walmart sells food here.
Yes.
And then
and I stopped him immediately and said, I was like, what? No. That's where you go wrong just by going to Walmart.
I've been busy with my move. I didn't want to go shopping anymore.
Do you know there's other places closer than Walmart to where you live?
I was there. I was
Target
just like,
is closer.
This is gonna stink, but I'm so done with this right now. I will get anything at Walmart. And go on.
Okay, so Ralph goes and I bought. He's like, and I bought 5 pounds of pounds of frozen tilapia, and he was like, I knew it was probably not a good idea when I was buying it, but here's what Ralph did. Ralph bought it, went home. And it's like, let me just kind of look it up, and actually looked and watched documentaries.
And spent an hour and a half just really disappointed in myself as I'm watching this stuff. And I'm like, well, I learned something new. However, like, this is just not
It's
right.
one of the worst fish fish, quote unquote, that you can buy. So Ralph, what did you learn about the wonderful? Because here's what happens to me. It's like I have a lot of friends who's like they know I'm kind of like into healthy eating and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I have some fish too. Had some tilapia. Got it. So good. It's just not good.
Well, the two main points that I learned was basically a majority of it comes from farms in China. And number two is the carbon monoxide treatment. The carbon monoxide treatment is specifically so that the fish doesn't lose its color while it's being shipped over to the United States. The funny thing about that is that Europe outlaws the treatment, so does China. So China performs the treatment for products and companies in the U.S. as they distribute, tilapia to us.
Won't even serve it to their own people.
Wouldn't even serve it to their own people. China has outlawed the practice of carbon monoxide treatment to make sure that the fish looks good.
It's so bad.
Okay. On top of that, I can't even imagine what these fish farms in China are feeding the fish. I can't even imagine. So Susan once told me, she's my nutritionist, and she's probably like rolling her eyes. She's like, you are what your food eats. And I'm looking at myself, and I'm just like,
I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah,
I am a
exactly.
piece of shit.
I am eating crap right now. And between the China food farms, the carbon monoxide treatments that China won't even serve to their own citizens, and then I basically got 5 pounds of tilapia for under $3 a pound. And I was like, this is so wrong.
Oh, my gosh.
But what's funny is so many people don't even realize that. Like you said, I mean, I was telling you guys earlier, I was at a restaurant. It's like a fake yuppie health food place. I don't even like it, but I was meeting some friends there.
I had to take an Instagram there, selfie.
It's probably on the Alt Daily Instagram. And one of the guys that I was with, he ordered a wrap, and it had tilapia. It was like a healthy wrap. Everything in it sounded great except for the tilapia.
Right.
And he was like, I think I'm going to get this, whatever. And before the waitress came over, I was like, please do not eat this food. Do not order tilapia ever. It is the worst thing that you can eat. And he's like, yeah, but they have it on the menu here. This is a health food place. I'm like, no.
Right.
Do not eat it. So many restaurants still serve tilapia.
I know.
It's
because, a lot of people, because there's been a big fish movement in the past couple of years.
You're better off eating 5 pounds of bacon in one sitting.
And the reason also, they say
you are. It's the worst kind of fat.
So Susan, we've written a lot about a tilapia on there. Do you have anything you want to share regarding Ralph's favorite,
you want to yell at me
now
right now?
non-favorite fish?
First of all, Ralph, I'm like totally sad right now.
Don't be sad.
But we'll talk. We're gonna talk later.
All right, listen. I'm gonna
that decision that you made.
I'm gonna videotape myself throwing out all of the fish into the garbage.
You still haven't thrown it away?
It's sitting in my
send it
freezer.
to
No, here's what you do. I was gonna say,
the bright
I was
side.
gonna use it as bait, but then the fish that's gonna eat the bait, you could use it as bait.
That's not responsible, Jake.
Oh. So Susan, you're telling me
It's really bad for
the
the
responsible
ocean.
thing is just to throw it out.
It is. It really
my
is. Like,
God.
okay, so the big thing with it is right what Ralph said. Again, you are what your food eats, right? You need to understand where it's coming from. But the really terrible thing about the tilapia is like it's got a really bad omega-3 omega-6 ratio.
Right, and
So
that's what Megan's looking up now.
Crap, it's actually inflammatory. So
really?
we talk about inflammation on the Alternative Daily all the time, and what we can eat and what we can do to reduce inflammation, the silent killer in our body. So don't eat tilapia if you're looking to reduce inflammation, because it doesn't have the right balance, and it will not help to repair any damaged body tissues. And anyway, the story goes on. So it's really, really pro-inflammatory.
Can I just say that there is a bright side?
Did you fry it? Maybe, if you're gonna do it, just fry it up.
Susan, I went home and I educated myself. That's the lesson
He's crying.
I want to portray.
He's crying
He's
right
getting
now.
all choked
I'm
up.
I'm not looking forward to my call later with Susan.
No, it's not going to. We should actually record it. It would be a good learning lesson for
My
us.
goodness,
But I did go home and I researched it and I realized how bad of a decision it was. And
good.
so it's a good story. It's not a bad one.
Good.
So some
I'm
better
not gonna drag you over
choices.
the cold.
Some better choices other than tilapia. You could try wild Alaskan salmon, Alaskan cod.
Yeah.
You could do mackerel, bass, sardines, trout, flounder.
So here's what I told him.
basically anything else. Anything else.
Octopus, sand fleas, jellyfish.
Seaweed.
Actually, I told him because down here we have a ton of seafood and a ton of fresh, locally caught fish. I told him you can't go wrong with dolphin. Other people call it mahi. You have snapper, grouper.
I love
Hogfish in the Keys is my
Hogfish
favorite.
is so delicious. Alligator. You live down there. Fry
Remember
that
I
up.
made you eat the lazy gator at that night?
Yeah. So Ralph is now sworn off tilapia. Are you gonna eat it? Or what are you gonna do?
No, I'm throwing it out.
Susan, who's a very sustainable living person, is telling you to throw this out.
I want
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Guys,
I
I
don't know.
want to throw it
She doesn't
out.
even want you composting it. She's just like, get
Do
that
not-
shit out.
Do not put that in the earth.
Don't even use it for
Don't even
bait.
put it in your garden now.
Do not put that in any animal's mouth.
It's so funny. Don't even use it for bait. That's crazy. Awesome.
No, but I will throw it out. I want to throw it out. I mean, it's when I did that research, I was like, oh my god. And then they say like 70% of the nation's tilapia comes from China, and you can't avoid it.
And they don't even feed it to their people.
Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Awesome. Well, that's gonna do it. Look at that. 2 hard-hitting topics:
Yeah.
So,
gun control and
Look
tilapia.
at us, guys.
I'm a student in the game, and I'm still learning, people.
Student of the game. Megan, where can everybody find it?
Well, if you like this podcast and you want to listen to others, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Please, if you're there, give us a rating. We would love, love, love to hear what you guys think. We are also available on soundcloud.com, and you can download the podcast directly at thealternativedaily.com. If you're on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest.
Awesome. And where can they get coffee from?
And if you want to be as jacked up as we are now, I am always so hyper and sweating every time I leave here.
We're inside today.
I know. I sweat every time. You can pick up a bag of Lucy's Brew. Remember that it is fair trade, organic, medium roast coffee. And the cool thing about it is each bag is roasted per order. So it's not just sitting on a shelf somewhere getting stale. And that's at www.thealternativedaily.com/coffee.
Who says www anymore? Here we are. We're talking about weather and how
HTTP.
http:// Did you get that? Did you get that
Oh, you
email
guys
I
are
sent
so
you?
old.
Awesome. Susan, thank you so much for joining us
Bye,
all the way
Susan. We
across
love
the
you.
nation.
Susan.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks, guys. We'll
Ralph,
talk
have
to
anything
you.
else you want to talk about?
I want to say thank you to Jake for not having a pop quiz this time.
I know. I was so nervous. I was like, we're definitely getting quizzed. I'm Googling like what the 50 states are.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be back next week.
Sounds good. Bye.
We just keep going with it, Ralph. And Megan does a clap.